So you've got about £1,000 to spend on a new gaming PC and you're not too sure what to put inside it. Well, this video should help you out. We've got a rather awesome system that we're going to take you through the specs, then building it and then benchmarking it and seeing how well it actually performs. So first up, the spec. We have a Ryzen 5 2600X, which is an awesome 6-core and 12-thread CPU. We're putting that into a Gigabyte B450 Aorus Pro board, which is B450, so it's a little bit on the sort of, I guess, medium end, but still a very nice board, can handle this chip just fine and has a lot of connectivity available to it. We're going to be running 16 gigs of DDR4 RAM at 3000 MHz with the CL15 cast latencies, and we're looking at running a 480 gig Adata SX8200 M.2 NVMe SSD in the top M.2 slot, as that runs directly to the CPU. Now, if you did want to save yourself about £50, you can actually go with this, the new WD-SN500. It is still a 500 gig SSD, but it's about £50 cheaper than the Adata one, and while it's about half the speed, it's still an incredible drive and well worth your money. On the graphics card side of things, we've got the GTX 1660 Ti. This one is the Zotac twin fan version, and it's pretty nice, a pretty decent value for money, and is overall fairly quiet as well, which is also a great sign. And to keep the CPU nice and quiet, at least in terms of its cooling anyway, you could go with the stock Ryzen cooler that comes in the 2600 box, which is actually a fantastic cooler and is more than plenty if you want to save a little bit of money. But if you want a little bit of a cooler and quieter experience, then this Cooler Master Air Pro 4 is a nice shout as well. If you want to save a little bit more money but still replace the stock cooler, the Arctic Freezer 34 Esports Duo is a fantastic option as well. It's a little bit cheaper and you get 2 fans. And finally, spec-wise, we have a Cooler Master MB500, which is a rather nice, sort of fairly mid-range case, and a Cooler Master Masterwatt 650 watt power supply. It's actually the fully modular one, so that's pretty awesome too. So now you know the parts, let's jump into building it. The first thing we're going to do is take the motherboard out of its box and install the CPU. This is pretty simple. You lift up the arm and align the gold triangle on the corner of the CPU with the triangle on the socket, and then gently place it down, and once it's in the socket, drop the arm, and that's it, done. Next up is the RAM, and that's also pretty simple to do. You're going to want to open the little tabs on either end of the RAM DIMM slots, and then align the notch in the center, or center left, center right, depending which way you're looking at it, and then align it, place it into the socket, and then push it evenly down on both sides for both DIMMs, and that's pretty much it. And while we're here, we're also going to install that M.2 SSD. This one is pretty simple. You will need to get the little standoff post from the box and install it into the hole that's marked 2280, as that's the size of our drive, and then otherwise all you do is remove the screw, put the M.2 SSD in a slight angle, aligning the sort of smaller tooth with the notch that's in the slot, and then push it down and screw your screw in at the back, and that's pretty much it. And the final thing to do before we go putting anything in the case is install the CPU cooler. This one is pretty easy. For this cooler anyway, we're actually using the standard mounting bracket that's on the motherboard already, so that's nice and easy. All we do is attach the AM4 bracket to the cooler, put a little bit of thermal paste on the CPU, place the cooler down, have the little sort of hooks over the latches on the board, and then tighten the thumb screws above that down, put the fan back on, plug it in, and there we go. Next up, we're going to start installing stuff into the case. The first thing we're going to do is take the side panels off, and then we're going to install the power supply in the bottom. Now this is pretty easy. All you do is slide in from the side and attach the 4 screws on the back, and that's pretty much it. It is a fully modular power supply though, so you'll likely want to install all of your cables before you put it in. So the ones we'll need are the 24 pin, the 8 pin CPU or EPS connector, the 8 pin for the GPU or PCIe, and a couple of SATA powers as well. Once the power supply is in with the fan facing down, you're then going to want to either route the cables or install the motherboard. It's up to you. I personally kind of pre-route the cables just because I've had some cases where you have to pre-route the cables, otherwise you can't get the connectors through the holes where they kind of need to be, so it's just kind of habit. But either way, you're going to want to install the rear IO shield if you need one, and then otherwise you're going to want to install your motherboard. Now before you can do that, you need to install all 9 of the motherboard standoffs. BIOS. These are all in a fairly standard location. You can check your case manual to see where they go, but for an ATX board like this one, you have 3 rows of 3 in a sort of top, middle, and center lines. It's pretty easy, you'll work it out just fine, but once you've got those installed, you then put your motherboard in gently and then align the holes and put in all 9 screws. Once all the screws are in, you're then probably going to want to attach your cables, so your 24 pin, your 8 pin up at the top left, and your front panel I/O like your power button and your USB 3 ports, and then otherwise the next thing to do is get your graphics card installed. This one is probably the easiest part of your build. All you do is remove the 2 rear covers that line up with the PCIe slot you're going to use and the one below that, and then otherwise you just put the card in, make sure that it's lined up correctly, and then put 2 screws in the back where you just remove the 2 screws for the rear covers, and then otherwise attach your 8-pin power connector and you're all good to go. Now we are actually using a hard drive in this build, so we're actually going to install that real quick, which is just the SATA cable and the SATA power cable from the power supply, and then the drive effectively just gets crushed into the little bracket and slides into the rails, and that's pretty much it. So that is the system built, and now we need to see how well it performs, especially the Ryzen 2600X and the GTX 1660 Ti, especially on 1080p, and we're looking at Apex Legends, PUBG, Fortnite, Battlefield 5, and a couple of more synthetic benchmarks as well. So starting off with 3D Mark Firestrike, we have an impressive score of 13,684. You can check out 3D Mark's website to see how this compares to other systems, but needless to say, it's pretty good. Battlefield 5 with DirectX 12 on ultra settings, we're looking at average of 77 FPS with a 99% minimum FPS of 68, so still pretty smooth and pretty enjoyable. Unity Heaven is up at 123 FPS, and this is just a benchmark, not a game, so you can kind of take the minimum maximum with a pinch of salt there. In terms of PUBG on ultra settings, we're looking at 105 FPS, which is actually really nice and very good minimums and maximums as well, very smooth gameplay. In terms of Fortnite, we're looking at a very respectable 125 FPS on epic settings, and again, very good minimums and maximums to go with it, so again, a very smooth gameplay experience. And in terms of Apex Legends, the newest game in the bunch, we have a fairly respectable 91 FPS as well. Again, on sort of very high ultra settings, with again very good minimums and maximums as well, and a very smooth, enjoyable, and very playable gaming experience that you could even stream too. So as you saw, this system performs very well in games, especially at 1080p, even on ultra settings. When gaming with this system, I think you're going to be very impressed with its performance, and if you wanted to push it to say 1440p on medium settings, then I think you would still have a reasonable time with it if you need it. You can also obviously stream with this, using either the new NVENC encoder on the 1660 Ti or using your extra threads available on the 2600X with X.264, so you have a lot of options there as well. So as always, if you want to pick up any of the parts here or you just want to build this system yourself, then check out the links in the description down below. That will take you to your local Amazon store where you can see pricing when and where you watch this. You can also check out the rest of the links down there if you want to support the channel and keep me making these videos on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday basis, whether that's the Amazon and Overclock HK affiliate links, so if you're buying from those places, it doesn't cost you anything, but it does massively help me out. And you can check out the rest of the links from Private Internet Access, Humble Bundle, and even merch like hoodies and t-shirts like this one. You can also hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and you can check out some other videos over there. And otherwise, that's kind of it. If you've got any questions, leave those in the comments down below. And otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.